What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about the current supply and demand zones on SPY that you should be watching for and how things are looking so far. But before I say anything about all of these different tickers, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with SPY. So this was very, very crazy when it comes to the intraday price action we saw. So we had this pennant that formed yesterday, and we actually got a break to the downside from this pennant. We were looking very bearish during the pre-market. And it is true, we actually continued to drop when we opened. SPY came all the way down to the 432.5 area, continuing to sink. However, the buyers came in and they ended up defending their positions, pushing SPY back above 433. And we saw lots of sideways, shuffling price action that continued for about an hour before SPY started to launch upwards and the buyers really started to push this thing up. So very crazy to see, but one indicator you could use to really determine the direction of SPY would be the 30-minute MACD. This basically caught on everything. This started to curl very nicely as soon as we got this pop from here and signaled more upside. So that could have been used very efficiently for trading. But now I just want to break down some important levels information on SPY because, crazy price action could happen. What happened to SPY was we basically sold off pretty hard when we opened. And then when we sold off even more for the first 30 minutes, the market remained bearish, but then we established a bullish divergence right here. This happened intraday in the morning. So after the market opened, we got a bullish divergence. And right off that bullish divergence, we got a nice bounce, and the buyers just continued to step in. So this was also just like a liquidity grab down here, which is where the buyers stepped in. This is where Wall Street started to buy. They tried to trick a lot of people into thinking that we would fill the gap that was down here. So we had another gap that formed basically. There's another gap all the way down very close to 430, and they wanted to trick lots of investors. And instead, they just pumped it right back up just to fool as many people as possible. On the 4-hour time frame, this was a bounce off the 50 EMA, so the market is still holding up decently. And here's some important levels now just to be looking out for. So on SPY, this is what our chart has been looking like. If you look at the last 5 days, it's just been the back and forth price action. So we have this resistance zone between 437.5 to 438.5. This is going to be our supply zone. So between this blue and yellow trend line that I have drawn out right here. This is where we have tough resistance. This is where SPY has a tendency of getting these rejections. Then our demand zone seems to be very close to this 433 to 432 area. There's also a gap down here around 430 if we do lose 432. We ended up holding above 432, which is why we saw buyers stepping in, and they continue to defend their positions. So on SPY, right off the bat, you will notice that we have an inverse head and shoulders like pattern right here. So this right here would be like the left shoulder. This would be the head, and this could be like the right shoulder. And this could be, leaning us towards more upside. But we need to see SPY break 437.5. If we break and hold that area, I could see a push for 438.5 and potentially even 440 if that breaks. So those are some resistance levels to be watching for. Now, if we fail to break 437.5, you're going to be watching support right over here at 436.8, which is this previous resistance area. If that fails us, watch 436.5 and then 436, and any break below 436 would send this thing much lower into lower territories such as 435, 434.5 and below that. So watch those levels very carefully. As of right now, we're holding around 437, so watch resistance around there. And just know we have an inverse head and shoulders that ended up developing today. It really was very tricky price action. Basically, you guys can see this gap down here. See this gap that's way down here. They wanted us to suspect or predict this gap was going to get filled down here. But I warned you all, we have to break 432 first for us to get more conviction. And we didn't break 432. We actually held 432.5. So very tricky day. I really hope that everyone was very careful, and it's always important to have tight stops and to be open-minded and prepared for very, very big flips. The market is wild, but just watch these levels carefully. All right, so watch how SPY ends up moving. We do have an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and we're going to be watching these levels very, very carefully. Onto the QQQ, I just wanted to mention that this is basically looking very similar so far, making higher highs and higher lows. But I just wanted to call out that the more we zoom in, the more you will see us continuing to hold up. On the 5 minute time frame, I was eyeing a possible ascending wedge, but it's not looking as strong just yet. We will see if this develops or holds or not. But as of right now, there's no confirmation of it kind of like breaking. So I wouldn't necessarily, call for downside just yet. Instead, we're actually holding above, 368. So that's going to be our pivot level. So what that means is, so long as we're holding above 368, this thing has potential to push all the way up towards these previous imbalances and this previous resistance zone around this 370 to 370.5 area. So watch that as resistance. There is most definitely potential for us to push for 370 plus as we're holding above 368. And if we manage to hold above, 370.5, which is where we have our very important resistance zone, there's going to be potential for it to go up to 372 if we do break and hold 370.5. So this is what the chart has been looking like. I'm going to actually delete some of these trend lines. It is looking kind of like a little bit overdone to some extent, but basically these are some important levels that you're going to be watching for as time goes on. So we have some tight resistance coming up towards 370 if we do keep pushing, and right now it is looking bullish. So that's the reason why I was like talking about how you shouldn't just solely look at the ascending wedge that could be forming. If you want to turn bearish, you want to see this thing break below 368.75. If that fails, let's watch 368. And if that breaks, it's going to come all the way down to 366 potentially. But as of right now, it hasn't done that. It's just continuing to pump. It's getting closer to this supply zone around this 370 area. So watch 370 to 375 as key resistance. As of right now, it's looking quite strong. QQQ also came down towards this resistance. It actually did technically come down to the targets we were talking about at 364 before getting a bounce. So pretty wild price action, but buyers did end up stepping in. As for Nvda, we were talking about downside on Nvda. We did get the move to the downside when we opened, but then intraday, some buyers did step in. But Nvidia still has this gap. It still is down quite a bit. I'm going to delete any of these like rising wedges now. I actually saw another one on this, but I'm not going to worry too much about it just yet because it's continuing to uptrend. We basically sank pretty hard on Nvidia. We came all the way down to about 430, which is pretty insane. So now, as Nvidia starts pumping, right, we're going to be watching this 444 area as support alongside 442 and 440. And then for resistance, watch this zone right here, very close to 449 to about 447.5. That zone right there is going to be resistance because that's been previous support. If Nvidia breaks above that this resistance right here, which is where we have this wick 446, watch it push up for 449, and if that breaks, watch 451. Then above that we have 455 coming. Those are some resistance levels, and then don't forget support at 444, 442, 440, and 437. As of right now, it's uptrending, but it's trying to fight this resistance very close to 436 to 435. It's fighting right now, so we will see if I'm sorry, not 430, sorry, 446 to 445. Sorry about that, guys. So Nvidia is looking a bit stronger now. It's trying to rebound. So watch and see if it can break this resistance. If it does so, there's going to be more upside potential. It is attempting to try to test this resistance right here. So we're going to be watching these levels very carefully. Last but not least for the video, I'm going to talk about Tesla actually one more time and then Apple. But for Apple, I just wanted to call out that looking at Apple, this is looking a little flat right now. We actually had a possible ascending wedge. I'm going to double check it on Apple. So there's a possible ascending wedge on Apple that's holding a lot better than that of SPY. But in order for us to get confirmation to the downside, you want to see it break and hold below 177.5. If that's the case, watch 177, which is where we have previous resistance, 176.5. And if that breaks, that's going to be a confirmation to the downside. Apple's not looking way too strong, but it's also not looking super weak. It's been uptrending, but it has a very clean looking ascending wedge, which does make me kind of like double minded when looking at it. So we're going to be watching this ascending wedge. Does Apple end up getting this break to the downside? Do we break this trend line? But it's not just the trend line, it's also the level. Do we end up breaking and holding below 177.5? If that's the case, it could reverse a bit and slow the market down. So be very careful with Apple. To turn bullish, you want to see it break and hold 178 to turn like even more bullish. So always be watching 178. I mean, if that were to break, then we have these highs right here, very close to 178.5 as the next key level. As of right now, it's looking like it's slowing down a bit, but there's no confirmation of it breaking down yet. So watch these levels and just be prepared for this ascending wedge. You could draw this out yourself too, just to watch in case something happens. We will see what happens with it, but just know that there is a risk of it potentially reversing because of this ascending wedge. And if we do break below 177.5 and hold below that level, there is a risk of some downside. So watch those levels very carefully. Just know that Apple has these technicals. And with that said, I'm going to I think Tesla's the last one I need to go over one more time because there's something else worth noting. As far as Tesla goes, we're uptrending very, very nicely. We do have an ascending wedge-like pattern developing on Tesla, but like I said before, these could always be invalidated, so it doesn't guarantee anything. And as of right now, Tesla's looking like it's trying to uptrend. So we've broken above this resistance trend line, this white trend line acting as resistance. We've broken this, which is a decent sign. If we manage to hold above 256, I could see Tesla push it for 257.5. But don't forget, there's also this ascending wedge that is still technically valid. There's no confirmation of Tesla breaking down because of it, but there is a risk of that happening if we do see Tesla break below. I would say around this 254 level would be like a very, very key confirmation of it potentially breaking down. But as of right now, there's no signal of it breaking down, and it's holding up very, very nicely. So Tesla's holding up decently. We will see if this ascending wedge is valid or not. If it just keeps breaking up, it could try to invalidate it. So we'll have to wait and see. And for now, it is looking more bullish technically. It is trying to push up higher and higher and higher. There's no sign of it kind of like breaking down just yet. So we'll see if this ascending wedge holds or not, if it does try to invalidate this or not. And just know that Tesla's looking more bullish. Watch 256 is resistance. If that breaks for a very, very tight scalp, we could see 257.5 on Tesla. That's going to be the next critical level. If it breaks that, 260 is on the table. If Tesla gets this like break below this trend line right here, then there is going to be a risk of it potentially coming back down to 254. And if that fails us, Tesla's going to start sinking all the way down to 252. So watch those levels carefully. It's very, very tight right now. We do have an ascending wedge, and we'll see if this plays out or not. And just watch the levels carefully. Last but not least, I'm just going to look at the bigger timeframes on Tesla just temporarily, just to show you that, just like the QQQ, Tesla has a potential double bottom like structure, which could lead to a full measured move even higher. So it is looking more bullish from a technical standpoint, but we have a setup that could turn bearish if we get confirmation. And right now, there's no confirmation of Tesla breaking down. So it is looking more bullish overall. All right, guys. Anyways, that's what I have for this video. I mean, the market was very tricky today, but for people out there that managed to catch like the big reversal and this trickery that was going on by these institutions, great job. If not, it is what it is, guys. It's just another day. All right. Thank you. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you so much, and peace out.